Ho, ho, ho. It's that time of year again. So, I promised everyone I was going to make this video. Here it is. I'm going to cook a prime rib. This is a prime rib. This is not a standing rib roast. As you can see, it's got a lot of marbling. If you think about this, this is like a ribeye steak. If you got a normal butcher should have cut it off the bone for you and then tied it back on. As you can see, it's tied back on. So that you want the bone to act as a rack and also helps cook it. It's very important, and you got to have a nice fat cap on top to keep it nice and tender. I said this is a really nice. I usually like cooking 3 or 4 prime ribs. This is a 2 because of course this year, believe it or not, just like everything else, the price has gone up pretty significantly. And it's just my wife and I, but I usually like leftovers. You figure it's 1 rib will feed 2 people, but you can't buy a single rib, prime rib that would be a steak, and it wouldn't roast right. In fact, that's usually why my deciding factor is 3 rib is where I usually like to get them so that they cook the best. But this was actually, my butcher got this for me. It's nice, it's good size, and it should do just fine. What is prime rib? Prime rib is prime meat. It's probably you know, younger cattle, better marbling. This is, if you go to the store and you see standing rib roast, that's probably because it's choice. Choice is fine, but once you eat prime rib, I kind of figure, like, you know, once a year for the holidays I'm going to splurge and I'm going to have an actual prime rib. Especially, I have a lovely butcher friend. Frank does such a good job for me. So I just, yeah, it's probably, in fact, this year, you know, did take kind of a jump. It's like $25 a pound. And I'm sure you can, the big stores are probably still selling standing rib roast $12 a pound, so it's probably twice as much or a little more. So that was my deciding factor, because I didn't want to really break the bank. So we got this beautiful cut of meat. It's got its homemade rack because it's got the bone underneath. So what do I really need to roast it? Well, there are 2 things. First of all, the roaster. I'm not a big fan of things that I don't use all the time, but this is the exception to the rule. This is an electric roaster. It's perfect for turkeys and beef roasts. Mine's getting kind of beat up and old. I guess I'll have to replace it. Bought this on a whim one year because I hate cleaning the oven. This thing, you can take it outside and spray it with oven cleaner, hose it out, you know, because the sensor comes out. So it's been real practical. It's funny because I got it from a place going out of business, so it was like half price. I think I paid like 50 bucks for this thing, and it's really been a lifesaver. Like I said, it's 18 quart. I can put a pretty good sized turkey in here. They do make them bigger, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone bigger, and the price is right, once again. I'm looking at buying another one at some point. Maybe Santa Claus will bring me one. I'd probably get the upgrade enamel liner, so it's a little more easier to clean. This thing's been through the ringer because I used the heck out of it. So basically, what's really nice about this is you can cart it off, put it someplace else in the kitchen. Sometimes if I'm making a big meal, I can put this out in the garage. What the heck? It doesn't matter. And get things roasting. Just keep an eye on it so that you don't want to overcook anything. And you want to check on it anyways. But it's nice because then my ovens are free. You know, I got my countertop space is still good, and this is just kind of a workhorse. You know, not a real big fan of unitaskers that you can only use for one thing, but I believe it or not, I pull this out of the cupboard quite a bit. Alright, let's get on to the roast. First thing I need to do is I just want to get some olive oil on here. 2 reasons. One is because it's really going to help everything stick to it. It's going to flavor everything a little bit. It's just going to make a nice, I just want to get some. I'm always guilty of free pouring olive oil on everything and then it makes a mess, so I'm trying to be really good today. Like that. Alright. So I just want to get all the sides nice and coated. Once again, I'm really trying to keep one hand clean. Alright. Isn't that beautiful? Yes. I can tell you that for a fact. Beautiful. Alright. Let's up the towel here. So what do I need to do for this? Well, so I'm going to put it in my roasting pan. Like I said, you can put it on a rack if you still want to make it easier to lift out of there. I've got a workaround I'll show you. But once again, I'm always finding things that I like that are a great deal. And I have a turkey lifter, believe it or not, you put it right under those strings, lift it right up. Good butcher knows how to tie his strings, so it won't cause any problem. First, let's just put some nice pepper on here, because I love pepper. Now the age-old question is, and most chefs will tell you, that you have to salt because it really helps improve the meat. I do not like over salting, so I try to resist that temptation, but I will tell you, because we have a nice fat cap on top, I'm going to put a little salt on top because it's not really going to affect the meat very much. So I just want to get some pinches here, and if any falls in the bottom of the pan, that's great, because guess what, we're going to need some drippings here to make stuff. So it's still not a whole lot, just enough. All right. I don't think I used half a teaspoon probably. Alright, this is the easy part. I got some carrots. Just leftover carrots. Cut them up into some chunks. I want them in the bottom here. I got some garlic. All I'm going to do, I want to release some of the oil. So I'm just going to give these a munch. I just happen to have this as some leftover, something else I was making. You can use as much or as little as you want. It's really not going to change it. I just like the aromatic, you know, the oil of the garlic. And I just want to toss it around here. And then for beef, I always remember that song, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. Well, rosemary and thyme are what I would use with beef. So I actually cooked a turkey the other day, so I had some of this left. I got my thyme. Let's just split these up. And the rosemary. Alright, smells great. So what's left to do? I got my handy dandy $6 special digital thermometer. Gotta remember how to turn it on. Turn it on. And all I want to do is I'm going to put this through the fattest part lengthwise, hit center or thereabouts. Don't push in too far, it's not that big of a roast. So what's the goal and objective here? This is was just shy of 5 pounds. I always cook them till they're rare, because you can only shave the outside pieces, and if you're worried about having people over that won't like rare meat, that's okay. The outside pieces are going to be more done. They're going to be medium, in fact. And the further you cut in, you know, the less cooked it's going to be. So only the center is going to be rare. And the other thing is, if you do have leftovers, if it's too cooked, you're not going to be able to heat it up. And it won't taste good to me anyways, but I mean, that's everyone's preference. So I always like getting it to about 120 degrees, because when we're going to take it out, we're going to tent it and rest it, and that's going to bring it up to about what we want. Other thing to remember is, you want to get this sucker cooking right off the bat, so I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to crank this up to 450 all the way up. If it went to 500, I'd put it to 500, but most of them are 450. And I want that for about 20 minutes, just to make sure I've got a lot of heat going on in here in the beginning. 20 minutes, I'm going to turn it down, and then I'm just going to wait for my little timer, or my little temperature gauge to say, oh, it's done at 120 degrees, and then we're going to bring it in. So I'm going to get this plugged in and set up, and we'll be back to show you how we're going to put some other food together, make this a meal, and show you what to do with the roast. See you soon. Alright, so 20 minutes flew by. I went out there and turned down my roaster. Now I wanted to spend a little time and clarify, but I want to get started, is that the controls on your any heating device, your oven or whatever, are only as accurate as the way it's designed. So I find that in my electric roaster that I use, I need to roast the prime rib for the rest of the time at 325. It probably loses a lot of heat, even though it's small. I just have found that to be true. So you might have to experiment. Some people tell me they like to have it as low as 300, and when I used to do it in my gas oven that's well insulated, 300 was fine. You know, it's funny that we all think that like ovens only have a couple temperatures, like everything's cooked at 350, you know, or something. That's not true. It does take a little bit of experimenting, but as long as we're watching. And the biggest thing is that I'm seeing the internal temperature has gone up a couple degrees before I turned it down, so I can just literally keep an eye on it. Trip myself. All right, so the second part of it is prime rib. To me, you got to put horseradish on it. I just like pure prepared horseradish. I don't want that horseradish sauce or whatever. So not everyone likes that. I understand that. The other thing is I really don't like is au jus. It's like salty beef stock water. I don't know where that comes from. But I have a recipe for some gravy that I think hits the mark. And it's funny, you could use this for any kind of steaks or anything. It's kind of a Marcella, and it's really, really good. So let's start. I have a little bit of olive oil in this pan that's very hot. I got 2 chopped up shallots. I don't use shallots very often, but when I do, they're Dos Equis, just kidding. But shallots are kind of cool. They're very unique to me flavor. Like I said, I don't use them or buy them very often, but they are worthy. So I just want to get these shallots just to start to kind of soften up a little bit. So I figured we're going to cook them for about a minute. I'm going to keep this heat a little high. Like I said, this is just I think a good beef gravy. I'm funny about that. You know, to me, turkey gravy's turkey gravy, man. But if I've got meat and I want gravy on it, this Marcella is And let me tell you, if you're using a choice cut of meat instead of a prime, this is definitely a fun way to go because you're going to keep it. You're going to add some flavor, keep it nice and moist. And that can even be said for, you have that one guest that really wants their beef cooked anything more than medium. You know, instead of giving them the A1, which I really would never put on a cut of meat, let's go ahead and try something like this. And eventually you can hopefully talk them down off the roof and explain to them that if they try some good cuts of meat, have a much better outcome. Alright, the shallots, just translucent, get a little edge to them, smell really good. So I've got 8 ounces of sliced mushroom, nothing fancy. Still got it pretty toasty in here. I want to kind of keep an eye on them. Because you know what happens, these guys like to stick. So I'm going to kind of steam them out, get the liquid out of them. So I can just let it sit there for a second. Everything smells great. You know, nothing like the holidays kind of force you. I know when I got up this morning I was thinking, man, I don't know if I really want to do this. But now that I'm in the middle of it, in the thick of it, I'm like, it's worth it. Alright, so remember, we want to get the liquid out of these mushrooms. I have to turn it down a little bit. So you're probably going to need a good 3 minutes cook time. We're really caramelizing the shallots now. And you can certainly use any kind of mushroom you want. I figured that with the ingredients in here, you're not going to get a lot of difference in taste with expensive mushrooms. So, you know, if you want to impress people, sure, go ahead and get the shiitakes and make it look cool. But I don't think it's going to really change the taste all that much. Now we're cooking. Alright, let's sit a second. So really, it's interesting that it's probably my fault. I've never been to the right place, but you know, when people get all excited about having au jus, you know, like French dip or something, I'm like, I don't see the benefit of it. And if you feel differently, let me know, comment, tell me. Or if you got a great recipe. You know, you've got to have the herbs from the beef. Now this is just getting there, man. This is getting there. So we got about a minute. Just want to get this all happy. I'm seeing the mushrooms are out doing their thing. They're shrinking and wilting. And that's what we're going to do when I get the water out. Yeah. Beautiful. Once they start to cook, you can actually turn them up a little higher to increase the evaporation. And when you're doing something like this, when you're trying to do reductions, you want a lot of surface area. So you want a bigger pan than you really think you need. You know, a deep pot is just not going to do it because you need all that stuff right down there on the heat. roast is still going. I said it before, but that's like my on sale, like $6.99 gift a couple years ago. And you know, I'm working in kitchens a long time. In the old days, you know, everything was an instant read through. Whenever you poked in, you took it out and stuck it back in your sleeve. And I'm so sold on this thing. When I bought it, I was like, oh, $6.99, so I use it once and throw it away. I use it for everything. Okay, so we've definitely got the shell. It's all nice and cooked down. The mushrooms are definitely wilted down. It's been about 3 minutes. Things looking just like it should. In fact, the shells are going to get to that point where they're kind of just mushy because we don't want mouthfeel of biting into, like, you know, shallots or onion or garlic. All right, so it's been the 3 minutes. I want to get this thing cranking, because now what we're going to do is I'm going to add half a cup of Marcella wine, my favorite thing. And I just want to simmer it, kind of. Reduce it, get the alcohol out. Alright, so I got pretty high heat under here. Just want this like 2 minutes. This is where everything gets real happy. I think this is one thing where Marcella is just a great product, wine to. I don't know who came up with it, but it's just perfect for this. Nothing sticking. I'm just trying to get it stirred around. I want that to sit now and reduce. Got about a minute. I feel like I should be singing like chestnuts roasting. Whatever. Yeah, this looks really good. So I'm guessing at this point we're probably reduced by about half. Yep, everything's nice and tender, so I'm going to call it good. Okay, that'll work. Alright, so now what do we have to do? Yeah, we have to fold our hands a little bit just to make sure. So everything's boiling. The alcohol, if you're concerned, is like evaporated off in the first few seconds, so that's kind of cool. Alright, so I've got 3/4 of a cup of beef stock. This is the sodium-free, whatever stuff. I'll throw it in here. Drop that temperature real quick. Back up where it should be. That's funny, even though it's room temperature, man, I'll tell you, you go from boiling to nothing. Roast is cooking. My biggest fear is that if your battery died and you weren't paying attention, you just wait for the thing to beep at you, you'd be in a world of trouble. Alright, so let me get this back up. It's a little bit of a roll. Da, 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 da. What's that? A watch pot never was. Okay. I'm boiling again. Everybody's really happy. Lots of good flavor here, and it's really simple because you want the flavor to come from the meat. You need a little bit of Marcella, and you cut it with a lot of beef broth, so it doesn't take too much away. Shallots are definitely milder than if you were to use, garlic. You could probably a sweet onion would almost not be enough. But, and the texture is just different. Like I said, the shallots just kind of melt away. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I need about a splash of Dijon mustard. Ooh, an emulsifier. What a thought. Alright, stir this in. Now you're talking. So I'm going to turn this down, and I'm just going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes just to get everything happy and all those flavors melting together. So we're going to give this 5 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like when we're ready to get my rib roast out. See you in a minute. Alright, believe it or not, I got my prime rib out here. It's tented. We need to let all the juices reabsorb and let it kind of get happy. So I want to finish this gravy up first. So everything cooked down a whole lot. I'm going to throw in 2 tablespoons of butter. Let that melt in here. Butter makes everything happy. It's just going to kind of add that fat content to all this good stuff that we've had here. Still smell that Dijon. It smells so good. And while that's melting in, so what I did was I poured off the juice from my prime rib. I want to add this into it because that has all those flavors. Lots of garlic. Just need to stir this all together. Heat it through. So now we have a perfect gravy. And remember, that's why I put Dijon mustard in here, because it's emulsifier, so it's going to keep, kind of hold that fat into it instead of letting it separate. You know, when someone doesn't know how to make gravy, when it separates on you. And this is done. This is a beautiful little gravy. So I want to move on to my roast, which has been sitting here for a few minutes. Oh yeah, beautiful. Just the way I like it. Turn that off, get this out of the way. It really is nice to bring all those flavors that we had. Alright, so what are we going to do with that? I still have my roasting pan, because the first thing I do is I've got to remove the prime rib from the ribs. so much easier to cut the string down here. Voila. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in here because that's all garbage. I'm going to take this, throw it here. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do, you know, the problem that a lot of people think with prime rib is they cut it too thick and it's a lot of chew. So I always like to start out nice and easy. That is beautiful. So, I'm going to take this piece right here. We need smell-o-vision, I keep saying that. It's not going to work. And for those of you who want to see what that's like, just a little bit of that gravy, that juice. So as you can see, this is an outside piece. I'm going to call this medium rare. It's hard to tell, I know. But as we cut in further, it's going to be definitely more cooked. And I want to show you something really funny. I got some green beans that I cooked earlier. These are really great. They're lime juice and bacon and garlic. And I just think that makes a pretty plate. I just think bacon goes really good with these. Oh, and as long as we're not being crazy, got myself some biscuits. Finish those off, get those nice and brown. So this is a perfect meal. Everything's is coming together really well, and I just want you to be all really excited about this. I'm drooling all over it, and so this is this is kind of a fun thing to make, and I would even splurge. Got myself a little burgundy here. You know, why not? It's the holidays. Just think about what it means to you and how happy you should be. And this is a meal to really enjoy with your friends and family. Only really close ones, because it's too expensive to feed just the losers in your family. But I hope you try it. If you have any questions, please ask. I just love making this kind of stuff, and I hope you have a really happy holiday, and we'll see you for the next great meal. Have a good day.